What methods do you have for coping with anxiety? Story 1. Cognitive restructuring. My favorite being looking for evidence of my worries/thoughts being unlikely, incoherent, or incorrect. For example, my friends probably hate me. What evidence do I have that could prove this? What evidence do I have to prove that they, in fact, do not? Story 2. Journaling has been a game changer for me. It's like having a low-budget therapist who's available 24/7. I write down everything that's bugging me, and somehow seeing it on paper makes it seem more manageable. Plus, doodling in the margins is a nice bonus stress reliever. Story 3. When I'm sitting in the moment of anxiety, I do this. I breathe. A deep, long inhale. A comfortable, collapsing exhale. I focus on my breathing and my working lungs, and not on whatever problem has triggered my anxiety. Once I feel calmer, I look at the problem that's causing the anxiety. I imagine the worst-case scenario. What if my deepest worry actually materialized? I then figure out what I would do if that actually happened. Once I realize that, even though it's not something I wish to go through, that there is a path out of it, I feel calmer and in more control. I think back to other times I've felt this way, and the eventual outcome wasn't as difficult to deal with as I had imagined. For me, it's the loss of control and the unknown that causes my mental and emotional discomfort. Once I have an idea of a possible plan forward, it doesn't feel so scary. Hope this is of some help to you. Story 4. Acutely or aggregately? Acutely. Try to focus on the present moment. Look around, take some deep breaths, and assess that nothing is currently wrong or disastrous, etc., in that moment. Additionally, it may be helpful to engage in something such as a hobby, a walk, etc., to distract yourself. Aggregately, and hear me when I say this, do something that will fill your bucket daily, weekly, etc. Your bucket will fill 2 to 3% each day and be emptied out 1 to 2% from life's stupidities. 6 months will go by and you'll be 30 to 40% better. 12, 18 months will go by and you'll be 90% better. Just trust the process and take care of yourself and never give up. Story 5. Many people here have given great lifestyle advice like exercise and meditation and journaling, so I want to jump in with an in-the-moment practice that helps me. It's based on the adage that you're not your thoughts, which basically means that even if you think something, it doesn't define you. It's not you, it's just a thought that's crossing through your brain. You can choose to pick that thought up and hold it, or you can stand back and watch it pass by and let the next thought come. So what I've done is sort of imagine my thoughts as being in little boxes on a conveyor belt. As they come, I pick them up and open them and see what's inside. And if it's an anxiety thought, I imagine myself just closing the box and putting it back on the belt and saying, "Thanks, but I'll wait for the next one," and letting it travel away. It sounds silly and trite, but it's actually helped me a surprising amount to deal with acute spikes. Good luck, OP. You are doing better than your anxieties want you to think you are. Edit. If this is intriguing to you, please also check out the reply from You Starry-Eyed. They have added some great context and additional methods that might help as well. Story 6. I'll go out and get groceries, something I've been meaning to get for my place. Not like impulse buying, but like something I need that I've just been putting off. Gets me doing something productive. I'm outside, and then I feel one step ahead of where I was when I was feeling like ass. Playing music, gym, or just any hobby, really. Story 7. One technique that I was taught, which I actually find to be quite good, is to ground yourself. Pick 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can touch, etc. The 5 can be any number, and is probably better a bit lower because of lack of answers, but the concept is still the same. It's supposed to get your mind working in the right way when it's being flooded in the wrong way, and basically help you control the thought process. Story 8. Depends on the type of anxiety, and my type of anxiety bingo card is about full. So I do lots of things: health anxiety, square breathing, and not Googling stuff. Focusing on times I've gotten through periods of it before also helps. General anxiety, as hard as it is, distraction, literally any task that might just stop me spiraling listening to happy music, something I associate with having a good time or a happy memory, combating it with positive thoughts, and also remembering that whatever I'm worrying about might not come to pass. I know it may sound cliche, but yoga has helped me with a lot of my anxiety too, and also discussing it and normalizing it. Often when I was a child, I was shouted at for panicking, which just made it worse. Being kind to myself and accepting it has really improved how I cope with it. Story 9. Spend time with friends or meet other people through activities such as volunteering, sport or social clubs, or peer support groups. If you're able to talk to people about how you feel, it can help to reduce your anxiety. Sometimes saying what's worrying you out loud can take away its power over you. Story 10. The secret is understanding that anxiety specifically anxiety, panic attacks, are natural, helpful biological mechanisms. And to redefine your relationship to them. This sounds heady, but it's really grounded. I used to have anxiety attacks like day to night for 5 years. Couple reasons why, and also a few reasons why I didn't want to take meds. But basically, I had unlimited time to go find a solution. And so I tried like everything. Almost everything out there is meant to help symptoms. Very little helps you battle the root cause. What worked for me was discovering that panic and anxiety attacks specifically are just insanely good ways for our body to dump excess stress energy. We are all walking around with existential anxiety, task anxiety, identity anxiety, etc., etc. All of these stressors created by our environment and our worldviews, which dictate how we relate to our environment. Your mind and your body do not like this. It is not pleasant. So they are both in constant pursuit of some way to ditch this energy, especially when it becomes overwhelming. Addictions, avoidance, etc. They are all different ways for your body and mind to ditch this energy. But when your body finds panic attacks, oh man, it loves them. For many people, panic attacks shut them down and force them to dump all of this stress energy in a very short period of time. This is extremely unpleasant, but it is very effective at what your body wants to do. So what's the solution? Basically just redefining your relationship to panic, anxiety attacks. Understand they are purely mechanical. Understand they are effective. Understand they serve a need, and then just allow them to happen. The more you recognize and allow them to happen, as opposed to fighting them, the less and less intrusive they become. If you can honestly welcome them when they happen, you will absolutely inoculate yourself against them. I used to have panic attacks daily, all day for years. Now, if I do have one, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm having a panic attack. It is gone in 30 seconds, and it is a fraction of the intensity it used to be. The harder part is adjusting your environment and worldview so that you don't constantly build up this existential or task-based stress, but that's the entire point, goal, journey of your life. IDK, how I'm supposed to do that part for you. Story 11. I try to turn it into a resource. I've had violent anxiety for years. It's a curse, so at least I try to take advantage of it. Some of the ideas I wrote down during peak anxiety at 4 a.m. solved some problems I'd been stuck on for weeks. It's like the brain works extra hard in these moments. When I can't come up with an actual idea, I write down a tiny step that goes towards reducing the source of my anxiety. They're not a solution. They just go in the direction of reducing the problem. For example, when my brain goes, you messed up at work, everyone will know how incompetent you are and you'll get fired. I give myself the task to complete a short online class, so I am more qualified in case I need to find a new job. Projecting myself in the future with a concrete task helps to calm down. And I've completed hundreds of those classes. Now recruiters think I'm passionate, all thanks to my anxiety. Hope it helps a little bit. Good luck. Story 12. When I had a very stressful job, I used this app called Calm. My sister, who also has a stressful job, got me a subscription. Not shilling for it by any measure, but it was useful. I'd go on break, find a quiet place, and listen to a meditation or stress-relieving bit. It was also good for sleep. I haven't used it since I left that job and found out that it wasn't really about the stress of the job. It was that the job sucked. My current job can be far more stressful, but the company is a lot more supportive. Story 13. I like to divide anxiety into two different types. 1, momentary anxiety, and 2, structural anxiety. The first is when you get an anxiety attack. You are doing something and then it hits you. I personally get paralyzed, need to lie down, or seek a quick hit from one of my vices. For this type, I think people in the thread have been giving great advice. Journaling, meditation, exercise, coming back to a ritual like drinking tea, taking a cold shower, or anything like that. But what has improved my life the most is dealing with structural anxiety. For example, one of the things that made me feel momentary anxiety is realizing that I'm behind other people in life. I would be browsing social media or something like that and see an accomplishment somebody else had shared. That made me feel like I was behind in life, throwing away my potential, etc., and lead to an anxiety attack. What I started doing is attacking the source of anxiety. It's natural for people to have accomplishments that I don't, the same way I have accomplishments that they don't. Even then, it is okay for someone to accomplish something. Life is not a zero-sum game, and we all have different paths. And why am I browsing social media if it seldom makes me feel happy and often makes me feel desperate? Story 14. Control something you can control. Feel like life is slipping and you're overwhelmed? Pick one small thing you can control and do it. I usually start by cleaning my room till it sparkles. Hey, now I feel good because I accomplished something. Then I find something else I can control, maybe my exercise, and I go for a 2-mile walk to get some good air and see people going about life. Then I come home to a perfectly clean room. Next, I'll control what I eat. Maybe cook a healthy or cozy meal like some pancakes, eggs, sausage, and fruit, or some baked fish and veggies. After all that, I'm in a mood believing I can do whatever I want to and whatever I need to. Just start small by controlling something you can control. Story 15. When I'm having active panic, I use grounding exercises. My favorite is to run my hand under cold water/touch ice if I have some available. It redirects your brain to be present in your body and can head off thought spirals. There are a lot of grounding exercises. They're often recommended for PTSD and anxiety. If you Google that phrase, you can find big lists of them. Some will sound stupid, but if you find one that works, it can really help. Also, anxiety meds and therapy, LOL. I'm super drugged up but never felt better. Story 16. I'm gonna get hated for this, but have an it is what is mindset. Why stress about stuff? It never helps in any situation, good or bad, so just don't. Do something else. Focus on things within your control. Life is too short to spend it hyperventilating because of a social interaction or finances or what have you. Healthy mindset can get you through anything. Story 17. If I start randomly feeling anxious, I do a checklist. Am I immediately in danger? What was I doing when I started feeling this way? Am I having repetitive thoughts about anything in the back of my mind? Are any of those thoughts rooted in reality? That usually helps me figure out where the feeling came from, if there's anything I can or should do about it, and if my brain just needs a second to chill. Story 18. I give my anxiety and intrusive thoughts a name so it's easier to dismiss them. I think to myself, not now, Deborah, we don't have time for this. It's like they're these obnoxious backseat drivers, and sometimes I just need to remind myself that I'm in the driver's seat, and Deborah's full of crap, but she's just trying to keep us all safe. The quicker I can recognize, whoa, that's an intrusive thought, it's not real, the easier it is to keep from spiraling. Story 19. I do a daily writing exercise where I write my fears and resentments down on paper before I release them. I picked it up from this thing called Crappy Childhood Fairy. In fairness, there is plenty of pushback against CCF's methods and spammy reach-outs for paid therapy services, but the daily writing of the fears was free to learn, and it helped me to clarify and organize my thoughts. And for some reason, the daily practice takes the edge off. Story 20. Are we talking about regular anxiety stuff or an actual disorder? If a disorder, which? Chronic or acute? Because I have about every anxiety disorders under the sun, and not all sorts of anxieties either come from it or the same source. And I have come to realize through years of therapy and personal experience that they cannot all be addressed the same. In general, regular anxiety stuff, rational fears, fear of the unknown, anticipation, work well by going on walks or talking me through it. Small grounding techniques like counting, breathing, etc. work super well on these, but they are small anxiety that can be easily brushed aside for the most part. Anxiety related to anxiety disorders have to be carefully managed through exposition, for the most part, because since the belief and trigger tends to be irrational, regular technique won't work. So I had to get exposed to my OCD triggers for a long while before I was able to establish a baseline of experience I could relate and reference to in order to reduce the anxiety from the trigger. And I have to redo this every time a new trigger pop up. In general, it's a long process, and I can't really rationalize or go on a walk or distract myself from them. But I'm finally able to eat out of canned food again and don't throw half my groceries away every week anymore, so I'm winning on this one. Anxiety and panic that's born out of my panic disorder have to be shocked, because these usually tend to sprung out of nowhere and don't have a trigger I can address immediately. Intense grounding technique like drinking something just a bit too hot, squeezing ice, digging my nails, or even holding my breath underwater is what I typically do for those in order to regain a bit of control so that I can then use other grounding or distraction techniques. Therapy is the only thing that helped my PTSD. My psychiatrist has been strongly recommending meds like Lexapro. I'm on the fence because antidepressants scare me, but that's also another avenue. For chronic anxiety, being able to compartmentalize my schedule to make sure I set enough personal time for myself, as well as taking care of my health through exercises and self-care days and activities like massage and facial spa, have been wonderful. Having a wonderful support system I can rely on has also been incredible to lower other stressors. In general, though, OP, if you struggle with anxiety to a point where you don't know what to do to cope with it, going to therapy, proper anxiety-focused therapy, would definitely be beneficial for you, if only to develop tailored tools you can practice and learn with a professional. Not every techniques work for everyone because we're all different, and the same anxiety can be born out of a different trigger. Someone having financial anxiety because they live paycheck to paycheck will have to handle it vastly differently than someone having financial anxiety despite being well off because they have complex childhood trauma related to poverty. Story 21. When anxiety triggers a panic attack, I do what I call 4-square breathing. Take a deep breath in over 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, slowly release breath over 4 seconds, wait 4 seconds, and then start over. For chronic anxiety, I haven't figured anything out that reliably works. Hence, the panic attacks. Story 22. Intentionally sitting with the physical sensations that accompany anxiety and just allowing it to be there. Your attention may be drawn to your thoughts as you do this. That's okay. As soon as you notice that you got distracted, go back to the physical sensations. Don't wish for them to be gone. They will go with time. Story 23. I still struggle with anxiety, but I've really noticed a huge change, mainly with decreased and less frequent anxious moments, ever since I started applying all of the bellow. I just dove right into sports, especially strength training. Yes, it helps with health and form and all that, but you cannot imagine the high you get from squeezing out the last drop of your daily anxiety while pushing through weights you had thought were too heavy for you only a few weeks before. I also do yoga twice a week. My anxiety mostly comes from things I have no control over, so I try to focus my energy and effort on bettering the things I can control. That took a lot of work, and I can't say I'm there yet, but I cannot deny that I am seeing and feeling progress. Little wins. Turned out I had vitamin D deficiency. I come from the Mediterranean and currently live in Europe, so that really screwed with my vitamin D intake. Turns out vitamin D deficiency also makes one more prone to anxiety and depression. Always consult with your doc first before getting into supplements. Clinics can easily do these tests. Almost forgot I do sauna after gym, especially in winter, at least twice a week. I'm not sure why, but it really helped with my overall mood. Hope this helps. Story 24. For me, easy tasks that can be completed. If I ever feel like a thought or an event coming up, that is causing me to constantly think about to do something I know I can finish. Tasks like washing my car, doing the dishes, folding my laundry, going for a walk, and making or prepping dinner. I generally have my music going as well. In doing easy tasks, I find that a lot of what is already being said here applies. Another one I try to do is drink plenty of water. I don't know if that makes a huge difference, but it is better than drinking something with caffeine. Story 25. I sit down, take deep breaths, and then whatever anxious thoughts I have, I try to evaluate them in a rational manner. I try and really think about what's in or out of my control. Then what can I do to change that? And finally, is this a legitimate concern, or is this my mind getting in the way of rational thought? Story 26. I found that exercise, deep breathing, and getting fresh air walking helpful as other comments suggested. Another method, not a healthy one that works for me, is to watch funny videos. I found that just the fact that I laugh makes things better. I find people falling while doing stupid stuff quite funny. I know it sounds bad. So that's what I do for about 30 minutes. And I feel better. Story 27. I'm currently working on this myself. I started ketamine therapy in July through MindBloom, but there are other routes to ketamine therapy. It is definitely helping, but my anxiety comes straight back when I get on social media, and I'm well aware of the irony of me admitting this while on social media, lol. Story 28. Seeing as I roleplay a lot of characters and tend to get really into character when playing, I try to embody what that character would do in certain situations. For example, when my grandma was suddenly in an emergency and I was the only one able to respond, I got into the mindset of my strongest and most logical thinking character in order to figure out the best course of action. That helped me be serious when I needed to and calm in the face of a very anxiety-inducing scenario. Story 29. I don't have diagnosed anxiety, but on days I feel a little off, I make sure I keep my caffeine in check, try to get a workout in, try to talk on the phone with family or hang out with a friend, keep mindless phone usage to a minimum, eat something comforting for dinner, relax with a movie at the end of the night. Story 30 for me, it's a guided meditation or yoga, listening to music by myself in my room or on a walk, journaling and just putting my head down and grounding myself with breaths and light movement. For some people, stillness is better, but for me, I actually prefer shifting from foot to foot or jumping lightly or walking back and forth or just doing some light movement. It just depends on who you are, I guess. Story 31, go for a walk, drive. It tricks the part of your brain that's in fight or flight into thinking you're escaping, plus exercise and endorphins, yada yada. I also listen to a lot of music. Calming music for panic attacks and loud bassy music for stress. Love listening to loud music. I throw my headphones on and sing as loud as I can without trying to sound good. Very cathartic. Recommend doing this in a private space though. Talking to a loved one about the problem is also very helpful. Helps you process what your feelings are, get another perspective on the situation, and it's just comforting to be around your support network. And of course, if you have access to therapy, medication that is also very helpful. Story 32. Morning mental health check-in. Am I green equal sign over the moon? First day of a holiday by the pool with a pina colada. B, amber equal sign. My son kicked off at school drop-off and I'm holding the fort at work because the entire leadership team are on annual leave. Or C, red equal sign. In urgent need of a professional because I'm about to have a breakdown. Think about why I feel the way I do and understand and empathize with myself. Midday, take a lunch break, walk, call a friend, chat with a colleague or friend whilst on that walk. Afternoon. How was my day? Why am I thinking about that particular life event on my drive home? Oh, it's because of that song. These are my conscious thoughts. Instead of going off on a tangent and reliving a traumatic past event, think about what's led me to that place. Do I want to go there or have I found my peace with it? Evening. Write a brief summary of my day, the ups and downs, what upset me, what made me happy. Did I do anything good today for someone else? These were all taught to me by a therapist and it does work. Everyone's different though. Maybe the traffic light check-in is enough for you, or the conscious thinking, or just the daily summary before bed, or all of them. Admittedly, I no longer need the summary. Story 33. I don't know how to cope with health anxiety, but otherwise, I found the grounding exercise of picking 5 things you can smell, hear, touch, etc. to be helpful, and also breathing exercises have been good long-term. In the moment of a bad anxiety, I still struggle a lot, but these help with keeping that smaller, constant anxiety lower for me. Story 34. PMR, progressive muscle relaxation, helps me. Spike stress balls to squeeze do too. My brain likes to circumvent anxiety by making me focus on whether or not I'm nauseous, because couldn't the feeling of impending doom and restlessness be about having to vomit? So my attention tends to turn to my abdominal area. Focusing on other areas of my body helps prevent panic attacks. My anxious thoughts are also often either absurd or objectively inconsequential. So if I'm starting to spiral, I do like to kind of have a conversation with anxious me and just go, and then what happens? Or, realistically, what are the chances of that? Other than that, I do like to journal, and I know I need to keep an eye on my sleep. Everything is worse sleep deprived. When my anxiety issues were at their worst, I did take medication for a few months, and it was the best choice ever. I really wish I'd done it sooner. If you're really struggling, I'd strongly recommend it. Story 35. I call this technique anxiety stacking. In decades of disabling social anxiety, I never found anything that felt like it gained me my power over anxiety back other than this method. But it comes with a cost, and you have to be strategic about it. It works like this. Let's say you are interested in talking to a pretty girl in a bar. Obviously, if you have social anxiety disorder, this feels impossible, and every bone in your body is pushing you away from her. Let's call this anxiety #2. Now try to think of something that somehow terrifies you even more than anxiety #2. In this case, you could tell your guy friends that if you don't go up and talk to that girl in the next 10 minutes, they are instructed to tell her something really embarrassing about you, like you have a micro penis. Let's call this anxiety #1 since it's higher up in priority in terms of how scary that is for you. The way this technique works is by harnessing the fact that anxiety, although deeply unpleasant, actually gives you a lot of energy that you can tap into as a superpower. To avoid the nightmare scenario of anxiety #1 coming true, you would do anything. And that includes going up to this pretty girl and talking to her so your friends won't have a chance to humiliate you. Story 36. Hey friend, as someone who went through a 6-month-long non-stop panic anxiety attack, here's what I can recommend. Taking a cold shower or sticking your hands into a bucket of ice and water. It sucks, but I guarantee it'll help get your mind off things even for a bit. Kind of like a hard reset. Exercise. It forces endorphins into your body. Endorphins make you physically and mentally feel better. I started doing yoga first thing when I woke up, and I'd go for a walk outside for an hour or so in the late afternoon. Talking to a good therapist, doctor, make sure there's someone good that can fully give you all their attention and listen well. They may even recommend a psychiatrist if necessary. Find something you enjoy that holds your attention. For me, one of the biggest causes of my anxiety and panic was the fear alone. Thinking about it would almost always be the trigger for causing it. I found my hobby of collecting and reading manga to be very grounding. It helped take my attention/thoughts away from all the bad things. Practice grounding techniques for anxiety. A simple search can inform you on many techniques you can try out. Breathing, mindfulness, being present, and so on. Personally, these didn't do a lot for me, but everyone is different in how they handle these things, so what doesn't help one person might be a saving grace for another. Know that you are not wrong. You are not crazy. You are not insane. Your feelings are 100% valid. Panic attacks and anxiety attacks themselves cannot in any way, shape, or form harm you. Sometimes medications may be necessary. This is a topic to talk to the aforementioned doctors about. I had to go on several medications for quite a while to help my brain get back on track to my definition of normalcy. But make sure you're very open with whomever may be prescribing those medications. If something feels wrong or off, talk to someone right away. Maintain healthy eating habits. Gut health is so immensely important to mental health. Things like daily vitamins, probiotics, and healthy eating were so crucial for me. Avoid fried foods and bad fats as much as possible. I am not a doctor in any sense. These are simply the tactics that helped me overcome my fears and problems. With anything in these types of regard, it is always very important to talk with your doctor to get the most accurate and helpful facts. Look out for yourself first and foremost. I wish you the best of luck. Story 37. My golden nugget from therapy: =breathing meditation. It slows the whole autonomic system down and anxiety is quelled while on the ride. Start with 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds exhale with a 2-second pause in between. Work up to 8 seconds each and it becomes easier. I've used 6 seconds inhale, 6 seconds exhale to keep track of time, 5 of each is a minute, while undergoing medical procedures, and goddamn if I didn't go from high anxiety to activating my brain's dream center. Story 38. I learned so many distress tolerance techniques in therapy and mental health programs over the years. I'll give my favorite ones that work. Mindfulness breathing. As I inhale, I count up to 5, then hold for a second, then exhale as I count back down to 0. As a musician, I've learned how important getting airflow with good posture from your diaphragm helps. That has helped me immensely during anxiety attacks. Music. As a musician, I get lost in rhythm in a good way very easily. As long as I have my headphones in or I'm hearing a song nearby that I can tap along to, it helps refocus my mind. Stop. A distress tolerance. Stop. Don't move. Don't react. Recenter yourself. I use another distress tolerance technique within this when I stop. I focus on my senses. What am I feeling physically? What am I seeing? What am I smelling, tasting, etc.? That helps me to stop in the moment. Take a step back. Reevaluate the situation that is causing you anxiety now that you've centered yourself. Sometimes I'll create a 2-sided chart. On one side, things I can control, and the other side, things I can't control. I remember that in the things I can't control, I shouldn't worry myself about and focus on what I can control. Observe. Observe your surroundings. What do you see, people? Is it raining? Is it loud? Bright? Take a second to be mindfully present in the moment. While you're at it, observe the situation causing you anxiety now that you understand the things you can and can't control about it. Proceed mindfully. Move forward. Proceed with caution. With the wisdom you've gained from stopping and taking a break to engage in distress tolerance, ask yourself, what is my goal? How should I move forward? Remember the other mindfulness techniques I mentioned earlier as you proceed mindfully. Hope this helps. Story 39. I think people hate me every time I suggest this, but I know I can't be the only one this will work for. Literally, just cut out caffeine from your diet completely. It's much easier than you think. I used to have really bad anxiety. Now I rarely feel any at all, and when I do, sure enough, it's because I have a coffee or a tea or a Coke. Story 40. If my anxiety is below the point where an anxiety attack is imminent, I sit with it by telling myself, maybe not. So for example, maybe everyone's staring at me. Maybe nobody's even noticed me. Maybe they think I look stupid. Maybe they couldn't care less what I'm doing, etc. Until my anxiety is half as bad, or it's been at least 10 minutes. If it's been 10 minutes and my anxiety hasn't reduced at all, then I'll use mindfulness/grounding techniques to distract myself, like naming things I can see in rainbow color order, naming 5 things for each sense, going through a category of things and thinking of something for each letter, etc. If my anxiety is bad enough that I can feel an anxiety attack is going to happen, I focus on breathing in for 4, holding my breath for 7, then breathing out for 8 until I've calmed down enough to do what's listed above. Related to the above, exposure response prevention therapy with a trained therapist specializing in OCD anxiety. I've done years of CBT and never saw any true reduction in my anxiety until I started an ERP therapy-based partial hospitalization program. I didn't realize how many coping methods I thought were helping me deal with my anxiety were really safety behaviors that were just worsening it over time. It's the only thing that's ever noticeably reduced my anxiety. I cannot recommend it enough. Story 41. I was taught to think, isn't that interesting? With anxiety, your body is going through a whole roller coaster of events, hormones, feelings, etc. I have a back muscle problem that feels like it's in the spot for a heart attack. Don't worry, I've been checked many times by many methods and stress tests. I'm fine. But nonetheless, if that muscle grabs, it radiates in me. Then my brain goes into Fred Sanford mode. So I go, that's interesting, the reaction. I know these chemicals were just released. I've used my J-hook and massaged the pain away already. Isn't that interesting? In the next 3-5 minutes, those chemicals start to wear down, and I can almost set my watch to it. The last interesting part, I'll have to pee a few times. Moral of my story is desk jobs and bike crashes and lifting pianos and being almost 50 caused this. Story 42, read Hope and Help for Your Nerves by Dr. Claire Weeks. Coping subtlety reinforces to your nervous system that what you're feeling is indeed a threat, which it is not. It's really uncomfortable but not dangerous. By continuing this reinforcement, you stay in fight or flight. You may get momentary relief but never lasting change. Ironically, the key to freedom is to do nothing. No breathing techniques, no supplements, no exercises, no yoga. Nothing. Do these things for your health, but as a way to overcome with anxiety, don't. You just allow, give the symptoms as much space and they need, and practice going about your life regardless of how you feel. We live in a culture where everything needs to be solved. We get stuck in an endless thought loop that just continues the anxiety cycle. Coping will prolong anxiety forever. Letting go and doing nothing to fix the way you feel is how you overcome this forever. Read the book. It changed my life. Story 43. Guided meditations help. More so the soothing sound of someone's voice in general. It helps to detract from my spiraling thoughts. Sensory therapy helps too. Splash your face with warm or cold water. Take a bath or shower if you need to. Pet an animal if you have one. If you can listen to cats purring, that's a proven effective sound to calm anxiety. Bodily activity. The transitioning act of standing, walking, and sitting kind of forces your brain to kickstart into a different active versus passive mindset. Walk a few laps around your home. Sit, stand, move in place. Repeat. Breathing exercises. Box breathing kind of forces your heart to slow down. Humming so that you vibrate the roof of your mouth also stimulates your nervous system and calms it down. It's also a good trick to suck on ice for that temperature therapy. A similar tactic is to suck on something sour or chew some gum, because it forces your brain to passively focus on producing saliva instead of adrenaline. If worst case hits, I would talk to your doctor or psychiatrist about prescribing an antihistamine called hydroxyzine. I use it when I have severe nighttime panic attacks, and it knocks me out. All of these are therapist-approved BTW. Story 44. It depends on the source of the anxiety. I build a Lego set of it, feels like things are stuck, and I'm not making progress anywhere. If I've got too much input and I feel frazzled, I try to get outside and walk or read. If I'm struggling to communicate something, I'll smash some drums, play the guitar, or make something on my synth. I try to keep it varied, so I'm not just limited to one outlet. Story 45. Saying out loud that I'm anxious. Usually, only do it socially if it's with close people I know. But for me, it takes the feeling of anxiety and just puts it on the table outside of myself for me to separate me from it. The unspoken, bottled-up energy of it is a lot of times what give it power. Deep existential dread type anxiety. I just take a nap and hope it's gone when I wake up. Story 46. I often have awful, repetitive thoughts worrying that something will happen to one of my kids when they are away somewhere. What has helped is to visualize a giant stop sign, and I force myself to stop thinking about bad things happening to them. Instead, I imagine my kids arriving home safely. I also think of us at an event in the future, real or made up, and think of all the details. For we're on holiday overseas and everything we would do. As well as this, I distract myself by thinking of the upcoming days, what appointments I have, what errands I need to do, shopping, etc. The more tedious details, the better. Deep breathing and putting my hand on my chest to comfort myself also helps. Story 47. I actually developed severe anxiety when I went on a holiday. I don't know what caused it, but the thought of being trapped on a plane made me super anxious, even though I've flown before. For 2 years, I struggled to be on public transport or in social situations because I would have severe anxiety attacks. I think the likely cause was spending too much time by myself at home, feeling safe. The most helpful thing for me was typing on my phone, going onto Notepad and writing down any thoughts that weren't negative, and trying to type as slow as possible to slow down my thoughts. Common methods such as breathing or counting trees didn't help even a little bit. The most helpful thing for long-term was facing my anxiety. It sucks, but you can't let yourself run from it. I would force myself into situations where I would feel anxious. Plenty of people who get anxious often avoid situations, which I believe can make things worse as you teach yourself that things are dangerous. By facing your anxiety, you learn to reprogram your mind and eventually realize that you might be anxious for no reason. Currently, my anxiety is mostly gone after 2 years. Story 48. Warning, super long, just read the first sentence of every paragraph. Entry LOL. Not new to Reddit, but very new to engaging with folks. If any of my words help even just a tiny bit, then there's hope. I love to help people. I was a teacher at one point, also worked in human services. Very stressful occupations, but I miss that sense of purpose. Anyways, forgive me if I'm repeating any suggestion. I am 48 years old and have experienced anxiety and panic attacks since I was a child. I used humor, rebellion, married due to societal and familial pressure, and soon divorced, alcohol, moved away from home 5 times to 4 different states, and now take medication that barely works because I've built a tolerance. Well, I stopped running away and have been using the following coping strategies the past 3 years. With anything, though, practice, practice, practice. 1. Meditation. If you think it's hard or might feel silly or are not confident about turning off your brain, there are tons of books and a few good apps. I've been using Balance app for a few months. Game changer. Plus, it's a 1-year free trial. All legit. I was very skeptical, but so far haven't paid a dime, and I have learned so much. I still can't go longer than a minute or two with thoughts racing through my mind. But you learn to just let them pass. Most importantly, you learn about mindfulness, being present, and being grounded. Google that shit. 2. Research self-help book. My most recent is Hardwiring Happiness. It's a ed-down explanation and instruction on retraining your brain. It explains that genetically, those who were most afraid survived during rough times. Plus, as humans, we have what is called a negative bias. But your brain is malleable, meaning you can rewire it in a way. I've borrowed the electronic copy for 3 months now, and I try and read it every chance I get. 3. Breathing exercises. You will learn a ton of these in any meditation guide and plenty of anxiety-based self-help books. Just Google breathing exercises for anxiety. There's so many. 4. Journaling. I have done this on and off. It is super helpful. I have an app that I use called the Most Dangerous Writing App. Free. The cool thing is, if you can type fast with your thumbs, you can just rant away. But if you stop, it slowly disappears. You get 5 seconds, I think. But just putting all that negative energy on the screen and watching it disappear is so gratifying. Hard copy journaling is extremely difficult and vulnerable for me personally, but very therapeutic. 5. Exercise. Another tough one for me, especially when I have sleep issues and use so much energy to get through an anxious day. But during the times I belonged to a gym, all pre-COVID were some of the least anxious times of my life. 6. Nature. Nothing like unplugging and getting in the woods or hanging by a lake or the ocean. Waterfalls are amazing. I hike, slowly, lull. But when I'm in the woods, it's like I'm a little kid again. Everything fascinates me. I want to know every plant and tree. I love creek walking and jumping from rock to rock. It's this curiosity and sense of peace that grounds me. That's mindfulness, something you learn in mediation. Or that book I recommended. 7. To-do lists. I use paper at work, but for personal tasks, I use Google Keep. Nothing is more helpful than putting everything down into words and then rearranging tasks/issues based on priority or reality. Is it attainable? Is it in your control? Can you do it in 5 minutes? I have lists for things to do when I'm anxious. Do the dishes, vacuum, clean my car. All of these things take 30 minutes, and the sense of accomplishment is calming. And back to mindfulness. There's a way to be mindful in the most dullest of chores, which helps ground you and keep you engaged. 8. Positive self-talk and manifestation. I group these two together because they go hand in hand. They both train your brain to be more supportive and fight that inner critic, that voice that tells you to be afraid, or that you suck, or that you can't do it. They also both practice the law of attraction. No, you're not going to be a millionaire by just saying you will be, but look into it. Positive self-talk is saying, I am not afraid. I am confident. I am loved. Manifestation is saying, I will be fearless. I will be confident. I will love and be loved. 9. Volunteer. It's been a while since I have, and I'm trying. In fact, I just signed up to be a big brother, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking into volunteering over the holidays because I'm single and not close with my family. Nothing is more selfish than helping others. Sounds funny, right? You get so much more out of it than you realize. Doing anything for others makes you feel a sense of community, a sense of purpose, and overall knowing that you made a difference. 10. Things to avoid. Toxic people, alcohol, caffeine, self-isolation, wasting money, preservatives, fast food, neglecting any form of self-care, including basic hygiene. Just anything that feels good in the moment, but you know you'll regret later. Anxiety. It's been a struggle that I still battle every day, but I have grown so much as 3 years since returning back to NY from the beautiful escape of the PNW. I still backslide. I still have meltdowns. Shit, I had a panic attack last night. This stuff is hard. But the younger you are, the more you practice, the more you believe, the easier it will be. If you have read this far and are the least bit interested, I revived a blog 2 years ago, created many posts that I'm proud of, but went through some of life's curveballs and lost all confidence in writing. It's still active. DM me if you're interested. I would post the link, but I'm kind of embarrassed and I'm not sure if I'm able to. Either way, you're not alone. I hope you find ways to cope. I hope you find peace. It does get easier. It really does.